ẹ kú dédé àsìkò yìí ẹ sì káàbọ̀ sórí ètò ọmọ Oòduà tó ń dé sójú ìwòran yín o láti iléeṣẹ́ ìkànnì Wo TV. Òdu ni wá àwa kì í ṣàìmọ̀ fún lóko a tún ti dé o sórí ètò bá a ti ṣe máa ń dé tó ètò ọ̀hún ló wá balẹ̀ báyìí bí ọ̀wọ̀ ara òjò sójúde yín o àwa òmìnira ẹ bá ń wá pèrè fìdí àbẹ́ bá ń fìdí tí a pèrè mọ́lẹ̀ kájọ kán lágbá mi ètò tòní nítorí pé ń dá a mú afúra wa lórí ètò lónìí ó gbọgbọ́n kódà ó gbẹ̀ngbẹ́ ẹ jẹ́ ń pè ní ó gbẹ̀ngbẹ́ nítorí pé kàyéfì ọ̀rọ̀ kàbìtì la máa ń pè ní kàyéfì ọ̀rọ̀ tó ẹ bá ń wá pèrè fìdí àbẹ́ bá ń fìdí tí a pèrè mọ́lẹ̀ ká kán lágbá mi ètò tọ̀hún ká máa bá kinní ọ̀hún bọ̀ bá a ti ṣe máa ń ṣe tá a máa ń kìbọnú ara wọn lẹ́lẹ́yọ̀ ẹ̀yọ̀ bó bá ti wá yá yín bó bá ti yégun ni o ṣe mọ̀ pé o ti yọrẹ́ àwa tá a wà ń bí náà àbá tèrè wá bí torí pé bàbá débi iṣẹ́ ṣíṣe náà là á ṣe ó ti wá yá ẹja jọ karabodò torí pé àní karabodò tán ká tún ṣe máa wá parọ́ pò tútù mú wá o ó ti yá bó bá ti yá yín.
Economic budget and economic planning.
Nisi, can you hear us?
Okay, so yeah, Nisi is still trying to get, yeah, I mean,
noise in the
it's a lot of
background,
activity.
yes.
But I even understand the gentleman who was reluctant to speak because you don't even know the people's state of mind at the moment, the grief, everything that's going on. Some might not feel comfortable having those conversations depending on their state of mind. So,
well, we're journalists, so we have to get the scoop. That's
why Nisi, human beings, they have a right to feel a sense of reservation.
Nisi is out there trying to get as much as possible. Look, it's going to be a packed house over in Daura, and I think Cynthia was mentioning that, you know, is the airport used to this amount of activity? That's something I wanted to ask Nisi actually with respect to the Omar Musa Yaradua airport as to how much activity it gets on a typical day versus a day like this when you've got so many people flying in.
Back to the fringes of Borno and then Niger Republic and Chad Republic fringes. That was what happened. And you can see how serious it was. But all of us must appreciate what President Buhari left for us. You know, he pushed them from our capital, our federal capital, now back to the wilderness. So it's a big achievement. Well, there was high expectation, you know. But the issue of the Northwest, there was intelligence report, and he was aware that when the Northeast, you know, was degraded, you know, the next area will be to the Northwest. He had that intelligence, and he never sat back. We push and also make sure that we contain the challenges in the Northwest, you know. But the point is, as I said, it's a combination of every element of the national security, you know, aspect that must play, including the resources, including the state administrations, as well as, you know, all other security agencies must work together to ensure that, you know, these challenges are contained. The Northwest is something that can be addressed, you know, quickly, you know, and so far so good. I have been following what is happening in the Northwest. The military and the other security agencies are progressing. Challenges of such magnitude must be taken, you know, continuously without break. And I'm happy the service chiefs presently are pushing for that, and they're doing it in collaboration with other security agencies. Remember, if you look at example of other countries, I've been to Colombia, I've been to Bangladesh. Colombia is over 50 years of insurgency that they suffered, you know, but it took time. We're happy we are not yet up to that number of years. But I believe Nigeria is up to the task, the military is up to the task, the government of the day, I believe, also is up to the task. They are not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that the security is maintained across our country. So what is needed is for consistency. There shouldn't be any break in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of execution based on plan, intelligence analysis, or what you call the intelligence assessment, and then you intelligence estimate, then you move in and deal with that challenge immediately.
General,
so
let me jump in quickly.
To have, achieve the results.
Let me jump in quickly. When the president took ill, there were a lot of stories as to what caused it. I'm talking about the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. And I'm wondering whether there will be a closure in terms of the information the Nigerian people are privy to. And maybe tonight or this morning, you might be able to give us an insight. As the Chief of Army Staff, it will look as though there is a mutiny because there are talks about how some attack came through his office into the vent, which led to the sickness and all that. As a chief of the army staff, what came to your mind at first? What information do you have? Is late now, but what information, what can you tell us? What really caused it? What happened?
Well, this is a national, you know, security issue and intelligence as well. I have spoken on this in the past. Health issues, as we saw it, is more or less a family issue, it's a personal issue, it's a confidential matter. And I believe the appropriate agencies, you know, had addressed it the way they deemed fit. And I believe whatever happened, we're glad at the end he recovered from whatever sickness he was afflicted with. And he came and completed his 8 years as President, Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. So by and large, I believe that it is a national, complex national security issue, which the appropriate intelligence agency, had handled it.
But General, are you worried about the breach?
Whether it is, sorry,
are you worried about the breach at the time? What efforts were made to?
You see, we have different roles. Okay, if there is breach of security, we have our different roles. I have told you the appropriate intelligence agency had handled it as at that time, and they were able to recover and evacuate Mr. President, and we thank Almighty God. He has recovered, and this is his time, and we pray Almighty Allah will repose his soul and grant him eternal rest.
Before I allow you go, General, this man that you served under, your commander, and there are a lot of people who were following you, who were your mentees on the ground, who you were commanding across the different battalions. What would you say is the legacy? On one hand, for the military, because you were the man who oversaw the military, the army, on behalf of the president, the GCFR, and on one hand, as the leader of the nation, to keep Nigerian people safe. What legacy would you say Muhammadu Buhari left, military-wise, in the army, and in terms of security?
Well, thank you very much. Great legacies. First of all, in the army, reprofessionalization of Nigerian army capacity building, where we have formidable, strong officers that have been left behind, and we have seen their capacity. And I'm glad almost all the service chiefs, especially in the army, I've worked very closely with them. I have tasked them in different capacities, and I saw their results, and they have done very well, and they are still doing very well. I'm proud of them. All the service chiefs, the CDS, Chief of Army Staff, and of course the Navy Chief of Naval Staff and Chief of Air Staff. Specifically for the Army, you can see the modernization of the Nigerian Army. I think we've never had it so good, in terms of modernization. Today we are far ahead of other armies in Africa and other parts of the world in terms of cyber warfare. We have also established that Land Forces Simulation Center. And we have improved and increased the strength of the Army and more formations. And we have the Special Forces Command, which are quite formidable. And I believe also in terms of training, kitting, these are legacies that we have left, and it has continued. I don't want to reflect back on some of those things that were not in a line, but I believe in terms of uniformity in our training, in our kitting, we have achieved that. Is that legacy that Buhari has left that is still being practiced? Right. I'm happy it has continued. In terms of national security, you can see that the focus and what has been left, in terms of even coordination with our neighboring countries, with the multinational joint task force, the need for synergy with our neighboring countries is something that is quite fundamental. Our borders have remained porous, and we need really to coordinate and cooperate and operate together with our neighboring countries. Recently, not long ago, General Sidi Musa, the Chief of Defense Staff, was in the Niger Republic to sign an agreement in order to continue the collaboration. The MNJTF will still maintain the Nigerian military, officer is still the commander there. And I believe we have set a legacy in terms of institutions. The war colleges of the Army, Navy, and Air Force are there. And I'm glad also the Nigerian Army University is a masterpiece that requires, the support of everybody to ensure that the Nigerian Army University, strives. And it's a major breakthrough. So that the military capacity building will continue in that regard.
General, thank you so much for your time. a real loss to the nation and to the Nigerian army. A soldier who has now bowed out and paid his final salute to the nation and to this life. In person of Muhammadu Buhari. Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, a former Chief of Army Staff. Thanks so much indeed for your time on our special coverage of the passing and the burial rites for former President Muhammadu Buhari. Thanks so much indeed. Well, let's also tell you that a lot of people have been calling and arriving at the Daura International Airport in Katsina, hoping that the body of the president, the late president, will arrive. And at the moment, of course, earlier, we saw the arrival of a delegation from the Niger Republic.
Indeed.
And we saw the governors of Ogun State
and Lagos
State and the industrialist Aliko Dangote, who arrived also in Katsina. We are keeping track, and at the moment when the body arrives at the international airport in Katsina, talking about the body of the late former president Muhammadu Buhari, we will put you in the loop. But there are more memories, of course, and one of such is the one we had with the exclusive interview we had with the former president and the now late president Muhammadu Buhari. Let's relive those moments. As a few minutes of that conversation. The man you may not be able to hear live speak again. I understand that the last time that the sitting president Bola Tinubu and himself saw and spoke was at the book launch of Femi Adesina sometime in April or so.
Oh dear.
Until he now got sick, traveled to the UK for treatment at the London clinic, and until his passing on Sunday. But let's now remind you of some of the thoughts of the late president when he was sitting president, and this interview exclusive to China's television.
I think you can recall that when I was campaigning, right, 2015, there were three fundamental issues: security, economy, and fighting corruption. And for Nigerians to be fair to this administration is to try and find out, from the time we won the election in 2015 to now, in the three promises we made: improving security, improving the economy, and trying to fight corruption. Well, securing the country in the northeast, if you ask anybody from Borno State, from Yobe State, from Adamawa State, there were a number of local governments, about 18, that were in the hands of Boko Haram. None of any local government now is strictly in the hands of Boko Haram or ISWAP. So, in that respect, we have done something. The economy, don't forget, and I challenge so many people to go and check with the central bank or NNPC, the production from 1999 to 2014 was 2.1 million barrels a day, average production, at the average cost of $100 American per barrel. When we came, somehow the militants were unleashed in the south. Production went down to 500,000 barrels a day. And I think by some fabulous coincidence, the price again collapsed to about $37 per barrel. But look at what we did within the time frame and the resources available to us relative to the government we inherited from.
Well, the economy and security are two very pressing areas, Mr. President, and I'm sure that over and over again we'll keep going there. You talked about how the militants were unleashed. Some people will say that President Erdogan also faced that crisis when he ascended, when he became president, and that was one of the reasons why he had to, come up with the amnesty program. But I'll take you back again to security. You've spoken about the progress we've made in the Northeast, and that is true. The camps are being emptied. the Northwest continues to be of concern, where we see bandits, unleashed in many parts of the Northwest, sometimes getting to the north central of the country. Would you say that we understand fully the problems we're currently facing in terms of security in the Northwest?
In the Northwest, the same people, the same culture, stealing each other's animals, killing each other, burning villages. So I think the only language they understand, we discuss it thoroughly with the law enforcement agencies, the service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, is to go after, the terrorists. We label them terrorists, and we are going to deal with them with such. And I believe if you go to those constituencies in the Northwest and North Central, within the last 4 weeks, there are improvements in the security. There is improvement in the security.
It is true. I mean, because the farmers heard was one that was a big challenge a few years back, and maybe a few months back as well. It's come down somewhat, but some people are attributing it to the seasons. They think it's about the weather, and that now that we're entering the peak of the dry season, perhaps we could see a resurgence again. Would you say that we have dealt with that problem once and for all, or do you fear that it could rear its head again?
We can't do much about the weather, but about the security, we have taken steps, and we are seeing the results, and we thank God for that. For the weather, we can only pray and hope that the weather they are mentioning, the climate change and so on. Nigeria, we are very susceptible to such issues because of our population and the size of the country. Population is the size of the country.
So in Daura, at the final resting home of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, it's a continued coverage of the final moment in the death and burial of late President Muhammadu Buhari. We'll be right back, everyone.
Back on your hands, drop it on the ground.
Important that young people learn to emulate the traits of the former president. Humility, integrity. I think there's a message there, right? So as far as, although Buhari wanted young people to farm, but he wanted all young people to go and farm, which was, very interesting in itself. But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said there for emulating who he was. He was a really very calm man and very measured. I guess what people want, a rah-rah, a bull in the China shop type president, but he was a very measured person.
Well,
okay.
We'll continue that, and we'll stay on that point. But for now, we join Arise News correspondent Ayo Adinayi in Daura, Katsina State, the hometown of former President Muhammadu Buhari, to bring us updates about activities going on there. Thank you so much for joining us, Ayo. Please fill us in.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon once again to you over there. Well, activities, like you said, in Daura, the hometown of the former late president. Activities are already in top gear. This morning, this place was actually not fixed like this, where the funeral prayer is going to be held, as you are seeing on the camera. It wasn't fixed, but work was working. The guys that were working on it this morning, they have to speed up the work to see that they get everything set. And majorly, they are just barricades so that the place is an open field area, but they have to come up with some of these barricades so that people will not just come in anyhow without a particular access, while there is a particular access, just one access road to the particular place. And just like we said earlier, that the helipad that will be bringing the remains, hopefully, of the late president, former president, is just by my right-hand side, just a stone throw from this particular location where I am standing. But you also see the amount of security personnel that are here who have also taken position and have manned every location to see that things don't go wrong, and the order is that nothing must go wrong in this particular place where we are. But preparation, as seconds go by, as minutes goes by, it tells us, a sense of a feeling that it seems that the remains of the president will soon arrive at Daura very, very soon. But earlier we spoke with the nephew of the late former president, that is Nuhu Daura, who confirmed to us hopefully that the body should arrive in Castina by 2 p.m. and hopefully by 3 the funeral prayer should be held in this particular place. The funeral will be held here, while the burial, like we have confirmed, that the burial will be held inside his residence, which is just a stone throw from this particular place where I am standing.
What about space, Ayo? Is there enough space to accommodate the people? Because we just spoke with Nisi, who is right now at the airport, and we know that there are a lot of people that are expected to come all the way, to pay their last respect to the former president. Do we have enough space to accommodate the people coming?
With what we have seen on ground and talking about space, it might be possible. It might practically be impossible to have, enough space to accommodate the number of people that are coming. And like I said earlier, when I was speaking with Rotus, I told him that the residence of the former late president is what we can just call a very small place, in quote, of what people will expect of someone who was once a president of the country. You expect a very big mansion, that can accommodate thousands of people. But from what we have seen, it's a house that it cannot, practically not be possible to accommodate the number of dignitaries that are already on ground now. And I know there are still more dignitaries that are coming from Katsina. Earlier we have, former governor of Rivers State, and also who is also a minister too under the late president administration, Rotimi Amechi, who is also a title holder in this particular town. We have the former governor of Ogun State, Ibikule Amosun, the former governor of Borno State, Sheriff Alimadu Sheriff, and a host of others who have also been here. Pantami, Malami, El Rufai was also here yesterday and is in Katsina, hopefully to join them. So like you said, we have a lot of dignitaries who are coming, but the security personnel have tried, within their own strength to see that only those that matters will be allowed, to gain access into the residence of the former president, So only those that needs to be there, who have business to be there, not even people who are living in the house. Yes, there are people who are just living there, running their own normal day-to-day activities. For today, the house does not belong to them. It belongs to those dignitaries. So we'll wait to see how the security agencies are going to manage, the little space they have in its residence. But for where we are now, this particular place, the field, where the funeral will also be held, from what we have seen, this space may not be too enough, to contain the number of people that are actually coming. But like I said, we'll wait to see how this will be managed. But I think gradually it has been managed, because we stand here, you can't find any other person aside from security personnel. Those are the only people that you can see, and other pressmen that are here. These are the only people you can see around this particular area. So every other persons have been kept outside there. So probably when the president arrives with the remains of the former late president, gradually access will be granted to those who need to be in this particular place. But of course, everyone cannot be allowed to go here to avoid a stampede.
I was saying earlier that events like this that, beam a spotlight on an area, highlight infrastructure and things people do not know much. I mean, for a lot of people, I'd never even heard of Daura until President Buhari burst onto the scene and popularized it. Clarify for me, earlier you were saying when you arrived, over the last 24 hours, there's been 24/7 power. And you were talking about how much the president has invested in making that community vibrant. When you talked about the lady who was mourning him. Is it 24/7 power just within the last 24 hours, or that area has efficient power supply all the time? Clarify that for me.
Yes, from what we have gathered so far, it's not just this moment, it's something that is common with this particular location or the Daura town. We are also here in 2021 or 2022 then, when the former governor of Rivers State was turbaned as the Amana of this town, of Daura town. We had similar experience too. So it's not about the moment of what happened that is bringing up this, but it has been like that. And like I said, aside, from the good roads that we can see, very, very good road network. Everywhere we have passed through, there is no place that is not tarred. Not just places that leads to its own house, but the whole town. We've been privileged, since we arrived here yesterday, we've been privileged to move around the town, either to get what to eat, either to meet with some of our colleagues too, who are here too. But from what we have seen so far in the entire community, the whole roads here are tarred, and everywhere you go, you can at least find a good water that you can drink even without thieving. At least for me personally, I have a taste of the water here. And like I said, this is also a testament of what the people have also said. Like I said it earlier, that we met a woman who told us, what they have enjoyed with the presence, having produced the president, some of the good benefits that have really come. And their fear is just, will this continue after the demise of the president? And of course, we have the University of Transportation here also. We have the Federal University, the Federal Polytechnic Daura also. We have a lot of institutions that have been brought here, to just to appreciate the fact that this man was the president, or was once the president of this country. So we have a lot of monuments, we have a lot of things that you expect in quotes, not to find in towns like this, but we have it. Like I said, we have the University of Transportation, we have, which is also named after him, we have the Federal Polytechnic Daura, we have a whole lot of things in this particular community that makes the community very beautiful and very nice to live in.
All right, thank you, Ayo Adenayi, our Rise News correspondent, right there in Katsina, Daura, Katsina State, for us, for bringing us up to speed on the event happening there on the burial rites of the former president, Muhammadu.
Of what kind of legacy you think the man is leaving behind?
Buhari assumed as a legacy which you can remember it. When he joined politics, he came here in Bandu, and I told him that you are now a civilian. I wish I'm not the emir, then I will join you to go and fight this cause of keeping our Nigeria together. So he left. And later on, I asked him to come and see my family. He came. And after that, he went for his campaign, and we continued together. So if you ask me a new question, I'm ready to answer, but the thing is long. And now I am older man. You can hear my voice. It's coming very difficult to talk. And talking about a man who live together all your life, himself, his family. So maybe there are some people which you want to ask them. I'm ready to give an answer. But not talking long stories is difficult for an older man. There is no more, in this situation, feeling very bad. But I know it's the wish of God, and nobody can prevent it.
All right, Your Royal Highness, I must sincerely thank you. I know this must be a very tough period for you too because of your relationship, classmates to the late President Muhammadu Buhari. Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Gwandu, thank you so much indeed. Muhammadu Ilyasu Bashir, Emir of Gwandu, thank you so much indeed for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
I'm very grateful.
Thank you. We're also grateful for creating time for us. Of course, we know that the last time that we publicly saw President Bola Tinubu and the late President Muhammadu Buhari was at Femi Adesina's book launch here in Abuja. You could see the camaraderie between both leaders. In fact, it was the late president that saw off the president to his vehicle. And that indeed was one statement that a lot of people would say it's very loud.
It was a very humorous moment as well.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember about that event was Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on the podium sharing his moments with President Muhammadu Buhari. And I recall very clearly President Bola Tinubu laughing very excitedly and looking at President Buhari and wondering, like, really, did you really say things like that?
Yeah.
He talked about how Nigerians, President VP Osinbajo was concerned about the news that was being shared about him and wanted to respond to some of those people. And he said that President Buhari told him that you are concerned about Nigerians sharing things about you. Do you know that he actually printed an invitation letter and said I was getting married again? And do you know that there were people actually at the mosque, waiting to come and see me get married again? It was quite a very humorous event.
Part of part of our history now is the fact that the man that is being able, as a deputy, they call it the spare tire role, the deputy governor, vice president. But it is under this the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, that Osinbajo acted for the longest time as an acting president. And you will see a lot of things played out. After the Yar'Adua era, we had to think about our laws and ensure that the vacuum about what happens when there's in the moment of indisposition of a leader, that vacuum is not created. A lot of things, and I hope that the producers will bring some of the quotes that you can now, because you will not hear Buhari speak again because he's gone, but what you will remember, what you will be able to know are the references to what he has said, the policies, the legacies that he's made as a leader.
You know, one of them which stands out for me and which we also heard the Minister of Water Resources refer to was how the president wished he was younger when he had taken office. He wished that he had become head of state, or he just had a few years. He says, now I'm 72 and there's a limit to what I can do. So even he understood his limitations. I think for a number of Nigerians, that I'm not very sure whether I remember if it was in his first tenure or his second tenure, because some people would have said if it was in his first tenure, that certainly would have counted against him. Yeah. Because it certainly would have played that over and over again as to, why do you want to elect somebody again when he's already said that there is a limit to what he can do? But that was one time when he truly showed faith in the Nigerian constitution and empowered his vice president to be acting president. One of the very few times that we've seen any leader do that, because we remember the constitutional conundrum it put Nigeria in when President Muhammadu Musa didn't transmit power to his, even though now there are stories here and there as to whether or not he did, and there's some people saying, it was he did.
Some people said there was actually a letter. There was a letter that were never allowed to. There are a lot of so
many things coming out. Yeah. I wonder what will come out now that President Muhammadu Buhari has passed on. Do you think that there are things that we might hear about him which people were not brave enough to say when he was alive?
Well, certainly not from me. Well, I mean, of course, the nature of Nigeria is that, people are going to get bolder, when, people are no longer alive. We see what happened about June 12. The family of Abacha said, why didn't Babangida say these things while the guy was alive? It's good for our national consciousness that, okay, somebody is now coming up with a story. But yes, it means that the guy can't defend himself anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find revelations.
Let me drag you a bit out here. And I'll let our viewers know that the late president is one also who supported a lot of Nigerians to heading global agencies. Amina Mohammed is one of those who say got support from becoming from the cabinet minister to becoming a global representation in the United Nations. Mr. Additional at Okonjo-Iweala was one. I mean, eminent Nigerians who had gone on to represent Nigerians. But where I wanted to, the humor I wanted to bring out here is that the portrayal of the presidential villa, and you were there for 8 years, the office of the vice president is on the other wing, isn't it?
Yes.
And the office of the president is on the other wing.
Yes.
Are there moments where President Muhammadu Buhari had walked over to the vice president office? Did you remember any of such moment?
No.
Because I understand that it was also casual like that. Yeah. He could easily relate with those who work with him. And are there moments like that?
The moments that that I saw him walk around the VP complex were in the evening, when he was taking a walk. Otherwise it's always the vice president that we go to meet him in his office. But if you stayed long enough in the evenings, around 7 and 8, some of the times he was taking his walk, around the villa, and you will see him walk up to the vice president's wing. Otherwise, you didn't, you won't have him come over to the vice president's office, except the vice president himself going there, which was quite several times. But him coming, I think it will probably be deemed to be against protocol.
So let's bring into the conversation on this very historical day in the life of our nation, one Nigerian that a lot of people will salute, not only on the national front, but globally. She served as a Minister of Environment in 2015 to 2016. She went on to becoming the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Ms. Amina Mohammed is live for us here on Channels Television. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us on our continuing coverage of the burial rites and the final moment of former President Muhammadu Buhari. You certainly had moments with him. For you, recollecting those moments, what would you say is one of those that stood out significantly?
Thank you. Well, one of those moments was the decision for me to come to the United Nations as the Deputy Secretary General. We were sitting in a meeting in Marrakesh at the climate meeting, and, Ban Ki-moon came over and said, we think that, the new Secretary General is going to ask you to come. And I said, no, it's not possible. I've come home and I'm serving. And then had a discussion with him to say that, I really needed his support. If they came to ask him, he shouldn't say yes. And he said, of course not. We need all our people back here in the team to serve Nigeria, and we need the best. So I felt very confident and left Marrakesh to India, which was my next trip. And in India, I got a call from the current Secretary General to ask if join him as Deputy Secretary General. So I said with a lot of confidence, I can't leave the service that I have, and I'm committed to President Muhammadu Buhari's term. So he said, will you allow me to speak to him? I said, of course you can speak to him. I have to tell you, I was very confident that my president would say, no. So I left India, I went home, and they said the president was looking for me. And I went and sat in front of him, and he talked to me for a long time about service. And I just thought, my God, I know where he's going. And at the end of it, after explaining why, these things mattered in terms of representing the country, he said, but of course the decision is yours. And in my head, I just thought, my goodness me, of course the decision is not mine. In our culture, when a man of that stature, one that you look to as a father, says things to you, that he wants the best. And so the only thing you can say is, yes, sir. But we often laughed about that, because when things were...
Ma'am, I think we lost your audio there. If you can punch the audio button. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so Ms. Amina Mohammed there.
Yeah, we certainly hope to reconnect with her, but she was one of the very few women who served.
One of the brightest that we have.
Yes, in his cabinet, and it will be very interesting to get her perspective, on how he viewed women in leadership roles. But clearly, he rooted for her, and that's why he was able to push, for her to go on to the role that she's currently serving in today.
It might be difficult, Mark, when you have some of the best tools in your hands and you let it go.
Indeed.
Because Amina Mohammed certainly was one of the brightest stars of that cabinet.
Indeed.
And she left quite early. She
Indeed.
didn't spend up to 2 years, just around a year or so in the cabinet before she left. And a lot of people thought that was going to be a tough decision. And maybe higher, there may not be a higher service than serving your nation, but then it's a service to the world. So a gift to the rest of the globe for Amina Mohammed to go on and do that. But then in this moment, how significant do you think this kind of... You're a woman, you know what it means.
Well, let us pose the question to her. I'm sure it's one who served with President Muhammadu Buhari. Ma'am, it's really a pleasure to have. Thank you so much for attempting to reconnect. We're hoping that you can hear us clearer, and we hope we don't lose you again. But can you share with us what it was like for you serving with him in that cabinet, and also, listening much later to criticisms that he suffered as a result of putting his foot down with the 35% affirmative action, which a lot of women had expected will come under his leadership?
Well, I mean, for me and the many women in his cabinet, I think we were given, as everyone else, the freedom to carry out our mandates. And I think as a woman, when you occupy a position, you open up that position to other women and to other issues. And it was incumbent upon all of us to fight for women's issues, and not just President Muhammadu Buhari. I think he put us in very important roles in the cabinet. I'm one to see a cabinet 50-50. That is my aspiration and ideal. When it doesn't happen, you have to understand that he sits on the seat of leadership. He's elected. He knows the politics he has to play within a country that perhaps is not there yet. But I can tell you that as women in the cabinet, we were always given the freedom to speak and to carry out our mandates, to have access to him when we had challenges. And so I didn't really see a better. And you can ask me, I've served many presidents. And I think that, he did the best he could with what he had. And he did a lot of delegation. I mean, Galadima said, the Minister Suleiman Adamu, that he talked about coming at such a later stage in his life. But what he did was max his team. And I think it was up to us to deliver. He was the leader, but we were the team. And I think that, we have to take collective responsibility for any of the criticisms that come at him. They were ours also. He succeeded, we succeeded. He didn't do as well as people expected. And we are 240 million Nigerians. We have to understand we'll never get it all right. Only God is perfect.
I'm in fact going to imagine that not only, why can a woman be the next Nigerian president? After, I'm just thinking aloud. Not only serving male leaders, but the big question here is the role Muhammadu Buhari played in our nation, and perhaps one of the biggest lessons of leadership. What would you say is one legacy that you think that government bequeathed to the Nigerian people?
Well, I think first and foremost is that this is an officer and a gentleman who went through from military rule to a democracy. He dropped his uniform and he embraced democracy. I don't think he was always comfortable with politics, but what he did was try and try and try again. He believed in the rule of law, and he believed in a system that even if it was imperfect, he would keep trying until he got to where he needed to get to. And it was God's will that he would be the president at the time he was. But I want people to remember that, before he got there, it was not just overnight. It was a struggle. And so therefore, the struggle of Nigeria is what I think he leaves, is that you don't give up on this country. It's the only one you have. And it is not perfect, but it's up to us to do that nation building. And he was, yes, sometimes very excited and looked to see the potentials and pushed us. But it was also at times disappointed in our responses in terms of, what were we going to do? Were we ready to go that last mile? And I think that that's what we have to think about, is that he gave it his all. Whenever he was asked to serve, he served. And we have to think about that. It's to serve is not an easy thing to do. It is a sacrifice, enormous sacrifice to his wife, to his children, to his family, and to his lifestyle. Because remember, he was also not a person who was always out there. He was very much one that kept his own counsel and a very small, gathering of trusted friends and family. So many sacrifices. It is a long haul, believing in the rule of law. And last but not least, he stood for the courage of his conviction. I didn't see him ever waver in the time that I had the honor of knowing him and serving him and serving the country. He really stuck to the courage of his convictions. And that is exactly that, courage and conviction.
Please stay with us for a moment. We'll take a quick break, and hopefully we'll be able to adjust the setting and the orientation of your screen, because we do have so much more to get out of you on this day. We'll be right back.
The committee is chaired by Senator George Akume, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Let's also hear what a cross-section of Nigerians feel about late President Muhammadu Buhari.
I see Buhari as a man full of love and passion for his country. And I believe he has done his best. He has been called to rest, and his creator knows why. So Buhari leaves a legacy behind, and will be remembered for the good things he has done for Nigeria. He's a compassionate leader.
To be sincere, if I say anything about Buhari, they hate me. Because Buhari is the reason why we are still where we are now. We went like 1960 backward. You understand me? So why talk about that kind of person? I would not like to talk about him. You understand me? The truth is that I'll just pay condolence to his family.
He was a man of influence. He actually makes an impact, especially to civil servants, in respect of this peculiar allowance that he added to our salary. So I'll say to an extent, he has actually done his own parts, and I pray the Lord grant him eternal rest.
During his tenure, he's really better than the tenure of our current president. So I think, from my experience during the tenure of Buhari, he did a lot of work too. Regardless that the hardship too was tough, and the situation was not really easy for us too. But we really acknowledge his work, and may his soul rest in peace.
He's a good man, so I wish him safe journey. I wish him safe journey.
The death of our ex-president really hit us with a sledgehammer, because the legacy left by Mr. President General Muhammadu Buhari cannot be filled. The vacuum is open. The man with integrity, the loss of Buhari is the loss of Nigeria, because he's a man of integrity. That is why in Hausa we used to call him Megaskia. That is the only legacy that we will give it to him, is a man of integrity, man of honesty. We really lost him. It is a great loss. We lost a mentor. We lost a man of unity. May his soul rest in perfect, and Ajala to Pidasu be his final destination. Allahu Akbar, Allah Jikan Buhari, La ilaha illallah.
Our reactions have continued to pour in for the late President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday. Arise correspondent Nisi Gabriel spoke with several dignitaries in Katsina as they disembarked from the and national orientation, as well as the governors of Gombe and Zamfara states.
See Buhari as a man true, and I believe he has done his best. He has been called to rest, and his creator knows why. So Buhari leaves a legacy behind, and will be remembered.
Came up with war against indiscipline, and that kept us on our toes for some of us who were around that time, and that made Nigeria more disciplined as a people. We are conscious of his directives on being disciplined. As the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he stood for integrity. You can't take it away from him. He was a man that we were proud of, both within the shores of Nigeria and outside the shores of Nigeria. He was seen as a man who was accountable, and a man who had the spirit of integrity. There's no other word that you can use to describe the president beyond that. He was selfless. He had integrity. He loved the people of Nigeria. He loved Nigeria. And it is a sad moment for all of us as a nation.
By give and take, this should not take another further minute when we get the news that his body has arrived, and we have our eyes live in Daura, where the final rites will be done. The President, Bola Tinubu, is expected to officially receive the body from the airport and onward movement to Daura, where the final burial rites will be conducted. We've been showing you pictures, live pictures from there. But let's quickly get a final thought with the 5th Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations and former Nigerian Minister of Environment, who served under the Buhari administration, got the push and the support of the late former president to serve in that capacity. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. In all of this, right, our nation is in transition to good governance, transition to development, transition to meeting the aspirations of the Nigerian people. If you look at it on the global stage, the world is seeing a lot of troubles, wars here and there, and you are right in the middle of it. And we are thinking of how to navigate. What would you say that the Buhari administration has laid as a legacy to help Nigeria navigate this process, and perhaps what the Nigerian people need to put their minds to and work on?
Well, I think you're right. The global tensions that we see today are affecting everyone. But I think that what we did in Buhari's time was to set an agenda that really did Nigeria first a long time ago. And to be very clear about our vision, to be clear that this is about building our nations and the interests of our people, but acknowledging that this is in a global context. And I think what you will see is a coming together today of Nigerians for Nigeria, whether they're in the country or they're outside of the country. And kudos to the many colleagues that I have outside in the diaspora who are doing incredibly well, whether in the UN, you mentioned earlier our former Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, as the WTO head, but there are many more in businesses. There are many more in diaspora. There are incredible Nigerians young Nigerians who have come into the tech space. And so I think what we have shown is that we have the ability to bring everyone home and to do this better. And those foundations really have been laid over time. But in Buhari's time, I think, you really did see everyone rolling up their sleeves and trying to do something in an incredibly difficult context. You remember when we first came in, the security situation in the country was quite incredible. We had parts of our country taken over, as did Mali a few months ago, and reclaimed that. Yes, we have not resolved the problem of security yet, but the efforts that continue to be made don't slide. So on very many different levels, the connection with the global, with the regional as well, the African Union. Of course, we've had our challenges with ECOWAS, but I think it's a sign of the times. And if I was to say anything, we are losing leaders who have convictions, who have a set of values that they hold on to very tightly. And we need them, because when we see the situation in Gaza, when we see the situation in Sudan, when we see the situation in Ukraine, where agreements to hold together the world with a set of values and principles are being eroded, I think that we should remember in late President Muhammadu Buhari when he stood for that, and we continue to support.
Right. My colleague Marpa would like to ask you the last question, but pardon me, I'm not wanting to put you on the spot, but I do know that when you had a sit down with the late former President Muhammadu Buhari about your assignment at the United Nations, it's something perhaps that you didn't see coming. You were not expecting it as much. Maybe someday, maybe in the nearest moment, do you think you might want to take up the task of coming home and playing maybe a bigger role, like becoming Nigeria's president? Has this come to your mind?
No, it hasn't. I'm always about service, but I will tell you that we used to laugh about this when I asked a number of our former leaders, that question is often put to me. Look, I believe that I am a candidate that is appointable and not electable at this stage in my life.
Don't think so. Don't be quick to judgment. Don't be quick to judgment.
I tell you what I believe. What God has in store for me is different. But what I believe is that I have an enormous amount of experience, exposure, and the honor of serving in different capacities that I can bring back. And I'd like to think that what I'm doing is investing that in the young people of our country. They have great expectations. They deserve for us to get behind them with their energy, their vision, let's use our experience and our wisdom to push them forward. So I'm an intergenerational person right now, and I would be a great campaign manager for another woman president in Nigeria.
Mama has a placard on behalf of the women.
Yes, I have. My placard is for you, Sheung. But
right.
never mind. I'm not going to present it now. Ma'am, I'm just going to, thank you, because I know that we have taken a little more than you had planned to give us with your time. But, opportunities like this with you are so rare. And thank you so much for indulging us, more or less, on this occasion. I'm just going to ask you very quickly, though, because you've expressed very clearly that you are an advocate for 50-50, which we're still very far from. I do not know how you intend to push that in our country where, we're still so far away from what it is that it ought to be when we're talking about women in leadership. We're still very far from even the goals that we have set for ourselves. What would you be saying to them, especially on the occasion of the funeral rites of President Muhammadu Buhari?
Well, this is about our principles, about our values, and the right for women to be side by side with men. There is no bird that flies on one wing, and we have an eagle, and right now it's flying on half a wing. So I would say to the parliament, I would say to our societies, our men, that we're not asking for numbers. We're asking for the capacities and the capabilities of women to help us build our nation. And it's long overdue. It's long overdue. In the United Nations, we came in, half our management are women, and half the people that represent the United Nations in the field are now women. So it is possible to do. Where there's a will, there's a way, but it does need a collective effort. We cannot leave people thinking that women don't deserve to be in a position of nation building. And I think that right has not yet been given to us, and it is one that we will continue to struggle for.
Well, ma'am, we hope to continue to engage with you. We have to thank you so much for sharing your time with us this afternoon. We've been speaking with the Deputy UN Secretary General Amina Mohammed, who also served with President Muhammadu Buhari in his first tenure as President of Nigeria. Thank you so much for speaking with us, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're still keeping our eyes on Daura and also on the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, as Sheung did say earlier. Any moments from now, we should be getting news that the plane which was sent to pick up the body and convey the body to Nigeria should be landing any moments from now, perhaps until...
It's late on schedule.
Yes, will also be...
Based on calculations.
Yes.
And, I mean, like I said earlier, that the give and take, flight schedules, and even the speed of the aircraft, you may not be able to determine weather and all of other contingencies.
Well, some people will say maybe they're trying to be respectful of how they carry the dead. You can't carry the dead in a rush. You have to, be solemn about it, I imagine. And maybe the plane is also doing it very solemnly. But it'll be interesting to get the perspective of... of Muslim clerics as to whether there is a deadpan time that this funeral must be done. But we do know that according to Islamic rites, it has to be done before sundown. So eyes on the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. These pictures we saw from earlier when we saw the military brigade now getting set to receive the body. We've been told that President Tinubu will be on the ground to receive the body in Katsina State. And then from there, it will proceed to Daura, also in Katsina, for the final interment and prayers. Shown quite a time, that we've had. One of the areas where President Muhammadu Buhari really did suffer some criticism was the area of women representation. It is remarkable that he supported 2 women to the international scene, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and also Amina Mohammed, whom we just spoke with. Do you think that the criticism of him in that regard was fair?
Well, that he didn't appoint
that we didn't have more women, and then also that comment, even though some people now say, oh, it was taken out of context, what he meant is that they didn't elect his family. That comment about his wife belonging in his living room and the other room,
Well, we must appreciate the fact that, President Muhammadu Buhari is a very traditional African man, so we should consider how we measure him against some of the more modern contemporary views about these things. Look, if you look at the fact that he actually supported Amina Mohammed and supported Okonjo-Iweala, that shows clearly that he is not somebody that has any serious limitations about what a woman can do. And he has quite a number of daughters, himself actually 4 between him and his second wife, Aisha. So I think he did his best, considering his milieu, considering his background. And, he could have done better, but I think he has done quite well enough based on who he is.
When you say traditional African man, someone who was a Muslim, he kind of stuck with monogamy, which in that sense, some people would say maybe he's not as traditional as we think he is, in the sense that he was also quite forward-looking in that regard.
Because he's democratically, religiously, allowed multiple.
Indeed.
Yeah, he was and the 4. I say it's qualified that you're allowed to have 4.
And we know some men who are Christian and then still have more than one. So
he said that he's a converted Democrat, but in that regard, he refused to use his
card.
The aces that were available to him. So it's contestable also whether or not he fully utilizes Africanness as a man.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at a lot of his contemporaries, I think quite a bit of people who are even Muslims don't exercise that. I mean, for instance, his uncle, Muhammadu Daura, also has 1 wife. You can quite a few other people, Islamic people that have risen up to high positions. A lot of them limit it to 1 wife. There are also those who don't. But I think a fair share of highly successful Muslim people stick to 1 wife.
Maybe, again, this on a lighter note, since Mark brought it up, just to calm the...
Yes, I see what you're doing there.
Talking about the kind of life that the late president had, someone who said he didn't have a house in London, that he also always relied on friends and all that. Apart from his home in Daura and another one in Kaduna, I'm not sure he has a home to himself
in Abuja.
In Abuja.
Yeah.
I mean, as the former president, he should have. Maybe these are some of the conservative nature that the man, because he looks like a conservative, a thorough conservative, because anyone who has served in those capacity, don't forget, he served at the board of the Petroleum Trust Fund, and resources were available to him, at least to be able to earn a good life for himself. But, here, I mean, 1 wife, 2 or 3 homes, all globally. And
clearly the man was very Spartan, and you have to give him the accolades for that. He was minister for petroleum resources. He was actually the one that built a lot of those refineries. He was chairman of NNPC. He was governor of Northeast State and then Borno, and then president twice. And, we're not talking of him amassing wealth,
that we know.
He stands out. And that's one commendation that you can't take away from him.
Well, we did say that we're keeping tabs on Daura and also in Katsina, the capital of Katsina State, one of those states. You have to be careful when you say Katsina. Are you referring to the state or you're referring to the capital? So
there are few states in Nigeria like that. Kebbi, Birnin Kebbi.
Yes.
Katsina, Kano. Kaduna. Those states that share same name with the capital.
Yeah. So indeed. So, well, in this context, you do know what I'm talking about. So we're keeping eyes on Katsina as a whole, because Daura is also in Katsina. But right now we're keeping eyes on the airport, and we're hoping that any moment from now we should be able to give you updates as to, whether at least President Tinubu should be on the ground. If he's going to be receiving that body, we want to imagine that he will be there before the body arrives. That would be the proper thing to happen, right?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, the president has to be, that's President
Tinubu
ought to be on the ground before, and I think that's the plan. But in terms of the timing, if you did say that the plane departed London
around 7:28.
Oh, okay.
Just about 8 o'clock.
It's about 8 o'clock. We have 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. It's still less than 6 hours.
So 6 hours. We're looking at 6 hours.
So
a little more to land.
So the ETA and
it's probably going to be around 2 o'clock.
Okay. So
it's 8 o'clock.
Quarter to. We're looking at 15 minutes to, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so right now what we're being told is that this is a live feed being brought to you directly from the Muhammadu Buhari Airport, and we see that another aircraft has just landed. Clearly, this is not the president's aircraft, perhaps bearing dignitaries. We have seen earlier that a delegation from the Republic of Niger has arrived in Nigeria for this funeral. We've also been shown pictures of governors from the southwestern part of Nigeria who arrived earlier, the governors of Ogun, and also the governor of Lagos State, who arrived in Katsina in preparation for the arrival of that body. That does look like a private aircraft. It's unclear who it is bearing, who's on board. So, but any moment from now, we should be able to tell you more dignitaries that have arrived to receive this body and also on ground for the funeral. It's unclear just how the body will proceed to Daura, even though we've been told it's just an hour away. Will it be flying via helicopter? We've been told that a number of choppers are also on the ground there in the airport, and that there is a helipad. But, you know, since it's not so far away, it's unclear whether the body will be going by road. But clearly, more people are arriving in Katsina for this funeral, for this very historic moment in Nigeria's history.
Absolutely. Of course, we'll be hoping to see those who are on board that aircraft. Is indeed just...
it's a large aircraft.
It's a large aircraft.
It's a large aircraft, sure.
More than 100-seater aircraft from what we can see right here. And
I see people already lining that red carpet. So clearly it's going to be a very important personality. It does appear that they are lining up perhaps to receive the people who are coming aboard that aircraft and also to shake their hands. You know how we see when an important dignitary arrives, somebody runs them through the people that are, you know, lined on the red carpet to greet them. So clearly it does appear that the dignitaries that have arrived are very important people. And any moment from now, we should be able to tell you clearly the people that have arrived. But clearly, these are live pictures coming to you from the Muhammadu Buhari Airport from Katsina State in the preparation for the final moments of the funeral of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Definitely. This looks like the man in which leaders of countries and leader of Nigeria are often being received. So it suggests that this is not just dignitaries, it's definitely someone of high importance and high up there that has just arrived.
Could it be the president?
It could, well, the president, I imagine, would be arriving on an official aircraft.
But given the fact that, number one, you know, Mr. Laulu Akonde was telling us earlier about how
that's not
the number one aircraft, 001, has gone to convey the body. Do you think the president might want to come in an unmarked aircraft as a result of that?
That would be curious because, you know, just...
It's almost unlikely.
They have a lot of, although, you know, this of jet, this is certainly a private jet. You know, he could, you know, because don't forget that he also has his own private jet, by the way.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But I mean, what I imagine is that it's almost unlikely for the president to travel. The large aircraft could travel as much without having to refuel about 6-7 hours. The aircraft which conveyed the vice president, and in those kind of and he has more capacity to do quite a lot of things. All right. So this is what is going on right now at the Yaradua International Airport in Katsina. I just allow you to have a feel of what is going on so that for yourself you can feel it, see it, and hear it. Muhammadu Buhari, who died on Sunday at a London clinic, and whose body is being brought to the country for burial. So breaking news right here. President Bola Tinubu, Nigeria's president, has just arrived at the Muhammadu International Airport in Katsina for onward procession and further to the funeral and the final rites of passage for the late President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes, we had speculated earlier, but yes, the president did come into appear in this unmarked private jet landing at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport. I think it explains the number of dignitaries we're seeing lined on that red carpet to welcome him. I would not be surprised, yes, my eyesight did not deceive me earlier, that the NSA was in the president's delegation. Take it back. I couldn't resist that. But yes, any moment from now, we should see the president highlighting from the aircraft, being welcomed by the dignitaries who had earlier arrived, amongst them the delegation which he had set up. Oh, he has?
He has.
Okay, he should be coming down anytime soon. I think that is him coming down as we speak. Coming down.
Yeah, and exchanging pleasantries with dignitaries on the ground. Imagine the committee, the special federal committee for this burial, led by ministers and very senior members of the federal cabinet and the governor of Katsina.
Ahmed Tinubu has arrived at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, waiting now for the body of President Muhammadu Buhari to arrive in Katsina any moment now. But yes, as you can see right there, dignitaries on the ground welcoming and receiving President Tinubu, who is on the ground to receive the body of the late president. We certainly will be keeping tabs on that airport.
That's indeed the 001 that we've been talking about.
Indeed. That's
the presidential jet that has just arrived. I can imagine and almost can debate that it's almost difficult for the president to travel because all of the protocols that will erode the traveling of the number one citizen. It's a bit difficult to travel on other unmarked or other kind of arrangements that is not known to security agencies. So this is the scene that you are getting right now from the Yar'Adua International Airport. The president alighting from the jet 001, the NAF 001, that's what they often call the NAF 001.
That means that we've added a bit of to the fleet.
This is what they call the controversial aircraft. That's the one, the so-called $100 million worth of aircraft, which the president has been flying. Right now, there is the national anthem ongoing now.
we should hear that the jet conveying President Buhari's body will be arriving Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport any moment from now, especially now that President Bola Tinubu, who is set to receive that body, is now on the ground in Katsina.
Indeed, this is part of the highlight as the federal government has announced that President Bola Tinubu himself will be the one to receive the body of the late former leader and the former president Muhammadu Buhari. This signifies the height of the state burial right as being approved and giving an honor of the man who served Nigeria not only once, not twice, but 3 times. He's gotten the opportunity to serve as a military head of state for 20 months. Thereafter, he was years later elected in 2015, and the man who defeated an incumbent, a feat that is very rare in our politics, and thereon went for re-election in 2019, serving Nigeria in those capacities. And now he died in a London clinic on Sunday and is now due for burial. And part of the honor due to him is what the federal government has declared a public holiday today, and the receiving of his body by the #1 citizen, the president himself, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this is a process we're seeing right now. The salute. This is not the death of just a leader, it's the death of a general, the death of the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a man who led not only the soldiers, led battalions, led Nigeria in times of trouble. The man who says he was going to be on the ground in the war front and relocate the command and control center. The man who said he's going to change the scheme of things in terms of anti-corruption war, insecurity in Nigeria, and also bring glory to our economy. He made dope promises in his campaigns. He served Nigeria from 2015 to 2023 as a democratically elected president. He called himself as a converted Democrat. And this is a time the nation is honoring him. And the federal government is leading the charge right now. We're seeing live pictures right from the Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina.
Yeah, we use
I've always been in Abuja. Except they have changed plan. The cops is supposed to arrive this week. They bring the body down. So they will motorcade, they will pass barricade and join the ambulance. Also, where are these junctions? Where are these junctions?
From the Umar Musa Eredwa Airport in Katsina State. And the pictures you see there are of the Guards Brigade, who had just given a salute. They had sang the national anthem and given a salute to President Bola Tinubu, who has now arrived at the airport in preparation to receive the body of late President Buhari, who passed on in a clinic in London. We understand that he will be on, the body should be arriving any moment now, brought by Vice President Kashim Shettima. We did tell you earlier that delegations are on the ground, international delegations, including that from Niger, neighboring Niger, which arrived earlier. And then also the governors have also arrived alongside all the traditional rulers. Very prominent amongst those who had arrived is Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who served as Vice President with President Muhammadu Buhari from 2015 to 2023. Hopefully any moment now, our cameras will be trained once more on the tarmac, where the aircraft should be arriving any moment from now. But the pictures you're seeing are those of the soldiers who had earlier given a salute. We will be bringing you a full and comprehensive coverage. We have been speaking on the life and times of President Muhammadu Buhari, how he was perceived, those who have worked with him, those who knew him personally from his days in the military, those who served with him as a military leader, those who also served with him as a democratically elected leader. It would seem that they had certainly very different experiences of him, and they have been sharing some of them with us. But please do stay tuned here. We'll be bringing you those pictures. Any moment now, we're expecting that aircraft, which will have on board Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was directed. Okay, now we understand that Vice President Kashim Shettima has already arrived. It's a separate aircraft, it would seem.
Well, I imagine so. Because on this particular arrival that we've been watching, is also the former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The Vice President Kashim Shettima, we also understand, is landed. But the most personality, the personality that people will mostly be looking forward to is the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Tinubu, who is going to be giving all the compliment of honor by the military, who are on guard not only to pay their final respect to the former general, to the former President, Muhammadu Buhari, but the President, Bola Tinubu, is here also on behalf of the nation to give the last respect and honor the man who led the country before him, his predecessor in office. And I imagine that they might be at the airport until the body arrives, and the late president body comes, we understand, is arriving at the international airport just about now. And perhaps the breaking news we're bringing to you right now, and you will perhaps be seeing the pictures any moment from now. We do understand now that a body of the late president, former president Muhammadu Buhari, has arrived at the Yereduwa International Airport, and on ground is the President Bola Tinubu, alongside his Vice President Kashim Shettima, a former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and cabinet senior members of the cabinet who are on ground to receive. Of course, Governor Diko Rada is on the ground alongside a lot of state officials and authorities who are there to receive him. The body will be moved to Daura for burial after receiving military farewell at the airport. It's a military farewell, and all of the military rites and the rituals that goes on when you lose or pay your last respect to a former general, a former leader in this regard.
Indeed, Seun. Well, that certainly will explain the clustering that we're seeing of people on the tarmac We had said earlier that we're going to be seeing any moment now the arrival of that plane, but somehow it doesn't appear that we caught that. But we can see clearly that there are more aircrafts on the ground, and we can see a clustering there.
The one we're seeing actually, which just arrived earlier, a moment ago, is the body, the aircraft that conveyed the body, which was accompanied by Vice President Senator Kashim Shettima and the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, and some family members of the late former President, Muhammadu Buhari. And the story that we can tell you right here is that aircraft landed at the runway of the Yerodua International Airport at about 1:59 p.m. Governor Diko Rada of Katsina State and members of the State Executive Council, including Deputy Senate President Senator Barao Jibri, and other important personalities were on the ground to receive the corpse, escorted by Vice President Senator Kashim Shettima, Chief of Staff to the President Femi Gbajabiamila, and some family members of the late former President. The chief mourner today is President Bola Tinubu.
Still right there for you at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, trained on that clustering of people there, which clearly shows that perhaps they're trying to retrieve the body from the aircraft. At any moment now, the military rights, the last military rights will be given to President Muhammadu Buhari. Any moment now, we should see that ceremony underway. But we have now been informed very reliably that the body has arrived the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport. What we should be seeing now is that body being retrieved and the state rights commencing any moment now. Seun, sometimes when you're expecting a thing, you have to be very careful. You're relying on the visuals that you can see from the studio, and also the reports of your correspondent on the ground. We had been saying that we're expecting the body to arrive. Clearly, that is the body right there. Would appear from what we can see here on our screen. Relying on the reports of our correspondent, Vice President Kashim Shettima, as directed, has retrieved the body, and he is on the ground alongside the body of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes, indeed. On the arrival, the latest arrival of the aircraft on that tarmac is Senator Kashim Shettima, the lead delegate. On the order of President Bola Tinubu, as soon as the news of the death of the President Muhammadu Buhari was announced, and is since gone there, and we know that the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, is a former Speaker of the House, and alongside Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, were on the ground in London, and here we've seen the termination of their presidential directive.
Indeed. To
get the body back home. And that has been done and delivered. Now, as that has been done, that happened right on the dot of 1:59 p.m. local time, right there at the Katsina Airport. And as that has been done, on hand is President Bola Tinubu, alongside very eminent Nigerians, including the former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, top and senior members of the Federal Cabinet, Governor Diko Rada of Katsina State, and members of the State Executive Council in Katsina, including also very senior politicians from Abuja, Deputy Senate President Senator Barao Jibri, among other important personalities and governors who were on ground to receive the body, which was escorted by the Vice President Kashim Shettima and the Chief of Staff to the President Femi Gbajabiamila. And
So
of
we
course,
could
some
see-
family members are on the ground too.
Indeed. Well, we could see earlier visuals of a vehicle approaching an aircraft, which is behind this aircraft that was used by President Tinubu. I mean, clearly, cameras will not be allowed to go too close, perhaps for security reasons. And this is President Tinubu's aircraft, who is still a serving president. So clearly, there will be boundaries as to where it is that our cameras can get to. But the pictures that you're seeing shows you a clustering of people.
The sobering fact that no matter how long we stay, we will go as humans, but what you remain, what you leave behind is what will be a testament of your lifetime. Yes. We've been speaking to Dr. Korede, but let me bring in the man who, had his experience as a young man, Dr. Sanusi, with him, and, the legacies of his administration politically.
Buhari traveled down to Nigeria. You can see that's the Nigerian Air Force. In the colors of Nigeria, dignitaries waiting on the tarmac, waiting to receive that body and pay their last respects to the late President late President Muhammadu Buhari. So many presidents we mentioned at the same time, especially since they're at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, who was also a former president of Nigeria. But dignitaries right there on the tarmac, the visuals that you can see. Any moment from now, the ceremonies will commence, and myself and Shehu will have to be quiet for a moment to let you take in all that is happening at the airport, because it will happen. A lot of the state activities will be happening right there at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport.
Indeed, a momentous occasion in the life of our nation. The passing of one of Nigeria's longest-serving leader, Muhammadu Buhari, born in his hometown of Daura, Katsina State. And, of course, this man served in the Nigerian military, became a military ruler, and was ousted in a military coup in 1983. 85 rather, yeah. By the then military leader, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and went on after the return to democracy, tried to becoming president. 3 times he failed, and on the 4th time he won the election after trying 3 times without luck. In 2015, not only that he was lucky, but also that he defeated an incumbent, which is a rare feat in African or Nigerian politics for years. Now, we can see the arrival right there of family members of the Buhari family who arrived alighting from the Nigerian Air Force aircraft. This is the one that was taken to bring the body back home. And of course, lots of people, loads of people right there receiving. Interestingly, this airport is named after another son of Katsina, who died in office in 2010. Late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who then was afterwards his vice president Goodluck Jonathan took over and went ahead to win an election in 2011, served, and re-election was when another son of Katsina now defeated him and became president for 8 years. Is the predecessor to the sitting President Bola Tinubu of the same political party, a party that we emerged in 2013 in a merger that culminated into final announcement in 2014, ran for election and won the election in 2015, and the same party has now won election 3 consecutive times.
Well, Sean, the late president clearly was a picture, a lesson in resilience, never giving up, and the fact that you continue to, highlight that, the fact that he ran 4 times, only clinching office at the 4th attempt, which is many more than a lot of people who would have tried. But clearly, there's any lesson that he's left to us is that he was a real Nigerian in every sense of the word, because if there's anything Nigerians are known for, it is their resilience, isn't it, Mr. Kondi?
And their persistence, clearly it's also a very strong lesson in the power of collaboration, and partnership. The only way it was possible in 2015 was to have that handshake across the Niger between Buhari, who had those captive votes in the north, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whose party was controlling 6 states in the southwest. And eventually, as we remember, some other new PDP parties, governors also joined. So it's the lesson of collaboration. It just shows
Abdul Salami, they were not...
in this country, we can get a lot of things done.
When our camera
it was clear
on that
they had some problems.
Air Force jet that has just landed. It landed at 1:59 p.m. local time at the Muhammadu Airport, bearing the body of late President Muhammadu Buhari. Any moment now, we should be seeing that body being brought out of the aircraft. But what we are seeing, highlighting from the aircraft, people who traveled on the Nigerian delegation to bring home that body, members of the family and other Nigerians, other very important dignitaries who are currently coming down the aircraft. We can see right there amongst them, I'm trying my best to look very clearly so Sheun doesn't accuse me, but if my eyes serve me well, I would say that is Oluremi Tinubu welcoming and comforting the widow of the late president. Aisha Buhari seems to be the one in the middle right there. In mourning, in deep mourning, you can see she's covered, perhaps in respect for her husband, and also in the right. She's flanked also by other family members. But right beside her is Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu. You can also see other mourners right behind them, some of them dabbing at their eyes to tell you the solemnity, the solemn occasion of this particular historic moment we're witnessing. We can see all the people climbing up that plane, perhaps to go and retrieve the body. And what we can see are Nigeria's military, members of the Nigerian military service.
The body perhaps will be in
the cargo slot.
In the cargo slot.
Indeed.
We don't know.
In the cargo hold of the plane.
We don't know. We don't know what might be, because it's also a presidential jet. There could have been some arrangement, because don't forget that there's a portion of that jet where it's reserved for the president, the cabin inside the plane. They could put it there, as a mark of honor. But hey, it could also be in the cargo. But I don't also assume that it could be in the cargo.
Yeah, well, we see them going into the jet. If they were in the cargo hold, we should be seeing them at the bottom of the jet, where it is that they would bring out the body
just
from.
Just imagining, logistically speaking, whether or not the body will fit in that posture, and how easy is it to carry such from the passenger
exit. Because apparently seeing all those uniformed people going in there will suggest
that's the task.
Yeah, but certainly there's a space that the body can fit in the cabin. There's a presidential small suite right there, where it can sit there. But we're going to find out what's happening here.
Yeah. So this is a final presidential flight of President Muhammadu Buhari. As touch base back home where he started his journey of life.
Yeah, and I don't think we've had anything of this experience, even when President Yar'Adua died. I'm not sure that we had this elaborate, show of. So we don't know what to compare it with, because I don't imagine how they're going to go in there and be able to do the military steps with those stairways. It looks rather tight.
Yeah, it looks difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering
but
the
crowd
control and absolutely. Don't forget this. If you look at almost everyone on that tarmac, they are important dignitaries, eminent Nigerians as much as. And this is I remember covering the burial rites of the former president who died in office, Muhammadu Yar'Adua, in office. He was a chaotic scene, albeit the kind of mood the nation was in. And I could remember the pictures that came out of the presidential villa that year. And you could see the people, the mourners, those family members who were arriving when the word came out that the president had died. in office. So this is a bit different, though, because he didn't die in office. And he's way older. And, of course, the only difference that we will see, or what is similar, is that there are two sons of Katsina, and they're going to be buried in Katsina. But for a moment, the 82-year-old former president Muhammadu Buhari has traveled his last, and his body being conveyed in an aircraft. He traveled for several years and done his last flight and touched down on the tarmac for the very last time, onward journey to his final resting place in Daura, his place of birth. Is indeed very, very instructive. The circle of life, Wole Soyinka has described it. Well, you go back to how you literally come from as a human being. One more time, this respect will be given to him. A place of his origin is going to be his place of final commitment to Mother Earth.
I think it's called a challenge for the uniformed men because I don't think they've ever had any kind of rehearsal.
It will be a tough one. Lalu, this, like I said, I mean, you have, the president was this, it was a 6-footer. So that body, trying to get it out from the passenger exit point is going to be a logistic and technical nightmare for them, I imagine.
And if they got it in, they'll get it out.
They'll get it in, yeah, of course. I imagine so.
If they got it in, they'll get it out. And they'll get it out in as much a dignified way as they possibly can manage.
Yeah, I don't think in London they had all of this focus. You get, you know, I mean, possibly the Nigerian military weren't even in London. I don't imagine they had the kind of personnel here in Abuja as they would do in London. But certainly this is quite unprecedented because, you know, they are trying to give the man the military honors. That's why you see all those naval officers and those uniformed men, you know, try to do their military steps, you know, out of the aircraft with his body. And it's going to be quite a bit of a scene to see.
To imagine that the president, Muhammadu Buhari, has been out of public eyes since April. Now, I mean, in fact, in Nigeria, we understand that he traveled for the medical attention in April this year, and April, May, June, and now July, he died. And so it's been, you heard what the former military leader said, Abdulsalami Abubakar, who said they were admitted into the same hospital for medical attention, and now he got out, but the former president didn't. Now, what we're saying now, pictures, live pictures, of course, right on the tarmac of the Yoruba International Airport in Katsina.
So you can imagine what is going on inside the aircraft.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And it's going to be who we carry, who is not to touch, who to touch. And it's a battle between who owns this body.
There's no dispute.
No. So
there's no dispute.
So get me right. What I mean is that Buhari is now, for a lot of people, he has so many parts. The military, the Nigerian state, the Katsina authorities, the federal government, the family. So it's going to be a role that a lot of people would like to play. So that was it's a battle because everyone wants to have their own
taste of the action.
Don't forget, you were the one who reminded us how everyone wants to have a feel of the late Yaradua.
But at this point, we did say that the body is the property of the Nigerian government.
And
at this point, he's coming out now. So here we see live pictures of the body of late President Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, being conveyed down that Nigerian Air Force aircraft. It wasn't in the cargo hold, it was in the cabin of that Nigerian Air Force aircraft, and is being brought down, draped in the Nigerian flag by officials of the Nigerian military. It's been brought down very solemnly, very respectfully, very dignified, in the most dignified manner, down the stairwell of this aircraft to the waiting reception of dignitaries on the ground. Amongst them is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who arrived moments earlier, just in time to receive the body of the late president. These are live pictures coming to you from the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport in Katsina State.
I think it's good to point out at this point that it's a thing of dignity that they put the body inside the cabin, not in the cargo hold.
Mm-hmm.
That's
also one of the things that for those who, I remember when the former governor of Ondo State died, and transporting bodies, usually the size of the aircraft will determine. So some aircraft we cannot take bodies within the passenger sitting area.
Now we can see, who can we see there? Shehu, sorry to interrupt you, but I think we can see some dignitaries already leaving leaving the foot of the aircraft, perhaps approaching towards where President...
Imagine that the Governor Diko Rada
would have been at the foot of the aircraft, but clearly they will be approaching or going straight now to meet President...
members of the Presidential Special Committee for the burial of the former president.
And that would mean that the body has been deposited in the car.
In a vehicle.
Yeah.
And they're making their way to where the official ceremonies will take place, because we know that that flag, there's the military farewell that would take place for the body paying their last respects. We know that that flag that was draped over the coffin will have to be folded very carefully and given to the Buhari family as a mark of gratitude for the life of service that President Muhammadu Buhari give to this country, both as military head of state and also as one of the civilian president elected. You can see the military chiefs are there. You can see Oluyede, who's the chief of army staff. I believe that also the General C.J. Musa will also be the chief of defense staff. But we could see very clearly by his build. I'm trying to make out people by the build. We can see that the bottom of the aircraft is gently being declustered. People seem to be making their way to where the final rites will be taking place. The military farewell will be given to the military respects being paid to the body of late President Muhammadu Buhari.
Muhammadu Buhari, a soldier, a statesman, a symbol, in every sense, a leader that can never be undermined in our political history. The man who commanded the minimum of 12 million votes elections, who went on to increase that margin to 15 million, 15.5 in the first being president, 15.3 in the return. Born 17 December 1942 in his hometown of Daura, Katsina State. He was military head of state in 1983 to 1985 after overthrowing the Shigari's civilian government. He was democratically elected president in 2015 and again got a re-election in 2019. And they said anti-corruption, security, and infrastructure development were going to be his major focus as a president. He died in London clinic on Sunday, and now his body has been brought right back into his hometown, his home state of Katsina. And President Bola Tinubu, who is leading the charge in the final burial rites for him, the federal government led by him has declared a public holiday today, and since declared a 7-day mourning, and Nigerian flags to be flown at half-staff. Through this period of mourning, the state government in Katsina, the traditional rulers, the Buhari family, the Nigerian government of all set into mourning, and to give the last respect to the man who is the second longest serving leader in Nigeria's modern political history.
So we had seen earlier pictures of a cluttering around that Nigerian Air Force aircraft, but it does appear that that crowd is now moving to the foot of the aircraft which brought in President Tinubu earlier. it's unclear how that is going to proceed, but we can see the red carpet laid out.
The body has now been brought for military farewell, taken out of the aircraft. Now, what we're going to be seeing right now is the sort of farewell, the sort of honor a military general gets, a military leader gets, and very unique, not only for a military leader, but also for a leader of the nation. Someone who is commanded the Nigerian military, someone who was also the commander on the ground as a soldier. So you see that.
You can see the body.
Yes. Wrapped in the Nigerian colors.
We not get one single shot.
Trying to boost agriculture.
Sorrowful moments, and not the best of times for the family, the immediate family of the former president.
Are you going with them?
After the body of President Muhammadu Buhari was received at that airport by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We also heard the military band playing the songs that they normally would play for ceremonies like this, songs like God Be With You Till We Meet Again. It's quite remarkable, some of these things that happen, that are military tradition, regardless of whether the person was Christian or Muslim. What it is the military will do, they will do, because that is their tradition. And President Muhammadu Buhari, we know, wasn't just a civilian ruler at some point. He was also a general in the Nigerian army. And so a full military honors being given to him as not just the former leader, but also as president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. We see already people dispersing. That body has now been placed in an ambulance, and any moment now it will be on its way to Daura. We see in the visuals choppers on the ground, but clearly that body will not be traveling via one of the choppers. From what we have seen, it is going to be traveling by road from the airport to Daura, which you understand is just about an hour's journey from Katsina State, the capital of Katsina. So quite a number of speculations already being laid to rest. We had wondered if the body was going to be in the cargo hold, but you did tell us, Laulu, that there is a special part in the cabin reserved for presidents, and it would appear that that was where the body of President Muhammadu Buhari was traveling in. Quite a bit of a challenge, bringing down that body, conveying it from the aircraft down to the bottom of the aircraft, but we found that the military found a dignified way to be able to bring that body down, draping it in the flags of the country, and also putting it on a concealment trolley as it traveled down on the tarmac, accompanied by the president. Quite a very solemn ceremony we have now witnessed.
Indeed. Very good. Yeah. Not so long in terms of the timing and the duration, but then you saw that all needed to be done in terms of a military farewell rites as being performed. Yeah. You're seeing live pictures live from the Katsina, the international airport, where the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari is now being conveyed to
in that ambulance.
The ambulance to his hometown of Daura, which by road takes about an hour 15 minutes. It might not be as fast as the average timing because of the kind of situation it is right now. Mournful and very solemn, sober moments for the nation. And like I said earlier, the chief mourner of the nation today is the President Bola Tinubu, accompanied by his vice, Kashim Shettima. We do know that the man who served with the President Muhammadu Buhari. Professor Yemi Oshibajo is also on the ground. Deputy Senate President Barau Jibir is also on the ground. Governor of Katsina State is leading the state delegation, including state council members, traditional rulers, and the Emir of Daura. All of them will be on hand to give the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, a befitting burial. Moments ago, we saw alighting from the aircraft which conveyed the body of the former president, the family members led by the widow, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, and also we saw with her the first lady, Oluremi Tinubu, alongside family members who are now en route to Daura, which will take, give and take, 1 hour 1 hour 10 minutes, the average drive from the Katsina airport to Daura. And that's where we're going to be seeing the Islamic rite of passage, which is usually accorded to a Muslim in these kind of circumstances.
Well, Sean, I think we're doing a countdown now to those final moments. The time as we speak is about 2:48 local time in Nigeria. That body arrived just a minute shy of 2 p.m. and in 48 minutes, all of the ceremonies are accorded. Former Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces has been accorded the president at this airport. We still know that that casket has been draped by Nigerian flag, and we know that there will be one more ceremony involving the state because the body will not be buried with the Nigerian flag. That flag will be folded and given in gratitude to the Muhammadu Buhari family. So we certainly will do our best to bring you the pictures. Mr. Laulu was commenting earlier as to, just the difficulty that we could see that journalists were experiencing at the airport trying to bring those visuals. But it's the work we do, isn't it? And we certainly will do our best to capture as best we can for you very important parts of the ceremony, this historic moment, the funeral and farewell to President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on in London on the 13th of July this year. So live pictures still coming to you from the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua airport. We had been wondering if the body was going to be flying in any of the choppers to save time, knowing that the Muslim rite will have to be conducted before sundown. But clearly now we know that the body is going to be transported by road. So perhaps a lot of President Muhammadu Buhari, who loved him while he was alive, who knows, perhaps they'll be lining the roads, knowing where he'll pass just to pay their last respects and say farewell. That is, if he'll be going through the cities, because sometimes you know how airports are situated on the outskirts of cities. But we never can tell. It'll be difficult, though, to be able to monitor just what happens along the road. But we'll do our best to bring you as many pictures Well, while we wait for Ayo to be connected, we are watching live footage from Katsina, where for the last few moments we have witnessed the procession of the military and the late former president's body as well. We saw it getting put on to a military ambulance and driven out of the premises to the final resting place for where the funeral will be taking place. It's a lot of activity that has been going on in the last couple of minutes. A lot of dignitaries wearing black there. But subsequent days will be saying that she certainly will be receiving a lot of visitors, because the Nigeria's president will be receiving visitors as well as herself, I imagine.
I think it's important to also point out that this is a route that the president, while he was alive, would normally take, but not by road. Normally we go by chopper. I don't imagine when he last traveled that road from maybe from Kano to Daura, because the airport used to be in Kano. I mean, I think this Katsina airport is a new one. So he would normally fly to Kano and then take a chopper, while he was president, then take a chopper from Kano to Daura. But now he's had to do this journey even though he's now dead by road. It's quite significant, interesting.
Final flight home to Nigeria and final journey to his place of birth. Sunset at 82, you might call it, for a leader that in every sense of it called the attention of Daura, the attention of Katsina, the attention of the Northwest, the attention of is Buhari's followers. And these are live pictures, of course, for you. The military rights still taking place at the airport, as we see some vehicle and movement out of the airport.
I'm sure this must be a dismissal of the parade, because the body has since been put in the car. And again, this is one of the few occasions where you will see the president and the vice president, in the same place. It's quite rare.
For me, I'm a failed soldier. I mean, I wanted to be in the military, but the discrimination about my height failed me. This is one of the things, the march past, the drum.
Place, and I want to believe this must have been through the influence of the Emir of Daura, His Royal Highness Umar Farouk, because when he came, with his own entourage and with a whole lot of the people of the community who came, and the security operatives were trying to stop them from entering. I want to believe with his appeal to the fact that this man that we are talking about, he has lived for the poor, according to what he has mentioned, that this man has lived for the poor, and since he has lived for the poor, it is expected that the poor also should witness, the funeral prayer and the funeral. So from what we have gathered so far, it seems the funeral prayer will now be held here, because here is very, very spacious enough, I would say, to probably contain, the whole community or the whole people that will be coming. So the burial or the funeral prayer now is not only to be witnessed by VIPs or by politicians, so to speak, but even the downtrodden in quote, and even the people of the community. So we can see that just by my left-hand side, you see people also, just by my right-hand side, you can see people also trooping in and going towards the tarmac. Probably from this indication, it seems like the remains will be brought in with the chopper, but the people here have also prepare themselves for the funeral prayer. And when I say they prepare for themselves for the funeral prayer, we've seen them, observing the ablution that is expected of them to be carried out while preparing for an Islamic burial rite. So for what we have gathered so far, we understand that the president's remains is already in Katsina, and any moment from now, it should arrive Daura, his hometown. But the joy for these people and their happiness is now that they can witness, the funeral prayer of a man they so much cherish, because it has been a whole grumbling outside, and a lot of them have been expressing worry. You can see how there is a lot of movement in the front of the camera, and it's practically impossible for us to control them. But the joy is that they are so much happy to the fact that they can witness the burial of a man whom has contributed a lot to the society. But the place is very, very jam-packed, and nobody is stopping anybody from entering here. The door is freely open, and everybody is coming in here to witness the funeral prayer.
And it seems it's a lot of men that are on ground right now to witness this funeral for the former president. Ayo, can you tell us what, from your first-hand account of being on ground, what you think that the former president would be remembered for, and some of the fonder memories that the individuals in Katsina State might have?
Well, of course, the former president, I can categorically say that he will surely be missed in this community, and he will surely be remembered for a lot of things. I said it earlier that his influence, or for the fact that he came out from this town, Daura, has really brought, significant development to this particular community, and the fear that some of the community or some of the people in this community are nursing is, will they still continue to enjoy some of the benefits they've enjoyed? I've said it earlier on our various live crossing, that the people of this community enjoy what we can call 24 hours power supply. The whole areas, the whole roads are tarred, the street lights are working, some are on solar, some are on normal electricity, and everything seems very neat, very calm, and very beautiful to behold. So I think his influence, and there are a lot of institutions, the Muhammadu Buhari University of Transportation is here, the Federal University Daura is also here. We have a lot of monuments or a lot of tertiary institutions that have been brought here, or there are a lot of development that has been introduced here on the influence of the former late president. So I think the people of the community will wait to see, probably after a month, probably after 2 months, probably after the crowd that will want to be on the way to cheer him, to pay their last respect to him. It might likely take longer than expected. But if the remains will be brought in here through chopper, that means probably in 2 days' time. It indicates that all is now set for the funeral prayer.
There's been a change of plans and that the public are now going to be allowed into the vicinity. I'm just wondering if you can tell us what the security arrangement is regarding that. Have they doubled security, or is there already adequate preparation for that?
Well, like I said earlier, the initial plan was the fact that only VIPs, very important persons, will be allowed to the funeral ground, because the funeral ground was earlier the other side, not even this particular place where we are standing. It was supposed to be outside of this particular place, but I said it earlier that the place has very limited space, which can only contain probably the president and some of the dignitaries, former governors, former ministers, and top politicians who will be coming to pay their last respect. But this will mean that the people of the community have been alienated, to witness the funeral prayer. And there is a change of plan to allow everybody to come here. And I want to believe the security personnel will work with the mindset that these people come here because of the love they have for Buhari, and there shouldn't be any cause for alarm, there shouldn't be any cause for harm. But if you can see, they are all stationed, security personnel are all stationed in front of the people who have come here, and they are ensuring that nobody leaves, or behave in a disorder manner. So the security personnel are very well stationed in every part of this helipad to ensure that nobody break the law as is expected. So the security operatives have been working in a mature way and ensuring that things are done the way it should be done.
And these kinds of situations, things can get quite chaotic on ground, as we saw earlier. So it's really nice to see that there's a level of organization on the behalf of the individuals who have come there to pay their respects, and the security operatives who are obviously working very hard to make sure that today goes off without a hitch and no security issues. And obviously the weather is holding up as well. Mother Nature is another factor in this whole event. It's good to see that the weather is holding up. Ayo, can you tell us, from what you've observed and from being a journalist of yourself, what would be the lasting legacy that Buhari has left for this nation and indeed the citizens of Katsina State in particular?
All right, our former president, has left a lasting legacy, not just for the people of Daura, like you've mentioned, but also for the country as a whole. And with when we were speaking this morning, a lot of people were talking about some of his social intervention program that benefited a lot of people, especially in the area of Empower, in the area of trader money, and a host of other special intervention programs that he introduced to making funds available for the aged, and a whole lot of such intervention that he has brought for the people. And that is Nigeria as a whole. Special intervention is one of those key things that the people or Nigerians will largely remember him for, appreciate him for. But for the people of Daura who have, like I pointed out earlier, who have really enjoyed a lot of benefits. I said it earlier that a lot of the developmental projects have been brought into this town. The Federal Polytechnic Daura is here, the Muhammadu Buhari University of Transportation is here, and other developmental projects that have been brought to this particular location. So it's going to be something that the people will watch to see, especially for Nigerians. Yes, they are.
That the convoy is now en route to Daura, and it is by road. So your expectation of a chopper, it will be by road. But then in the meantime, I'm wondering if you've spotted any foreign VIP or head of state in Daura that will be attending the funeral of the late former president.
Well, for now, we've not spotted any. Probably they are in Katsina, and they will be coming together with his remains. So I learned most of them landed in Katsina. So hopefully they will join. They will join the remains by road to be here. But for now, it's just the emir, former ministers who served during his government, former governors, Rivers State Governor, former Rivers State Governor, former Ogun State Governor, former Kaduna State Governor, and others have all been here. Former Borno State Governor, emirs, House of Rep members are already here. Those are those that we have cited, but for now we've not cited any foreign president or national here.
And we did cite many of those that you just said on the tarmac earlier on when we were covering with Nisi Gabriel. It seems that Buhari's military career, it spanned several decades, and the military today definitely showed up and showed out, so to speak, as one of theirs is being laid to rest. Can you give your observations on the military that are present and what their mood seems like? We also saw a few of them bringing out their telephones, as modern technology would have it.
How much of a loss politically would this be for the APC family?
There's no doubt it's going to be a big loss. No doubt about that. But one thing I can assure you that the President Bola Tinubu, is a master strategist. Before now, for the past 25, 30 years, he has been building bridges across the country, even before he became the president. Now that he is the sitting president, you can be rest assured that he will have consolidated on all the bridges he has built over the years, and possibly he must have made new friends. As we are going to lose some, I'm sure we are definitely going to gain. We've already gaining some too. Yes, it's a big loss. We are going to lose some, but at the end of the day, it's going to balance out. And I don't see APC losing the coming election. Certainly, we are going to win. I'm 100% sure.
So there are those who will say perhaps President Muhammadu Buhari is one of the biggest northern political influence in that part of the country after the Sultana of Sokoto. The kind of influence that he had, who do you think can get the mantle on in that part of the country? The followership was a very strong one. And he maintained that fellowship. It was a following that he had in northern Nigeria. And by extension, the coming together of the merger of the APC now gave him a handshake across the Niger. But who do you see in the northern Nigeria today who could maybe get into the shoes of Muhammadu Buhari?
To be honest with you, I think his shoe is going to be bigger for anybody to fill. But one thing I can assure you is that nature doesn't abhor a vacuum. I remember when we lost President the vice president, former head of state, or maybe second in command to Obasanjo, Umaru Shehu Musa Yaradua. You know, as at that time, he was about the biggest politician in the north. When he died, people were wondering that who is going to be the rallying point within the north. But as God will have it, after him, Buhari emerged as the rallying point. I'm very sure that another person will emerge. Who that person will be, I cannot tell you for now. But I know that there will be some people that late President Buhari must have been, tutoring or mentoring, who might probably try to step into his shoes. And at the end of the day, I'm very sure that there won't be any big vacuum from the north. I don't want to mention any particular name because nature is funny. You might think somebody has so much influence, and at the end of the day, when you see the result, it might not turn out like that. But leaders of that status emerges naturally. And between now and 2027, we'll be beginning to see the trend. And at that point, we'll be able to tell you that this is where the leadership in the north is going. That's all I can say for now.
I was going to say that the politician in Shewun couldn't resist questions like that. But let us look at some of them to have been set aside, and we'll look.
Should be a very large mansion that probably should be able to contain this crowd of people that you are seeing here. But it has a very small mansion that might not even be able to contain, the whole VIPs that are coming for this occasion, let alone, the people of the community. So with this, a lot of people see it, and some who might have even have probably different opinion about his government in terms of fighting corruption, in terms of fighting insurgency force. For them coming here, seeing the house that he owns and coming around again to see other people who are not even president, who are not even head of state, owning mansions that are bigger or that are more beautiful than his own. They feel like, oh, this man is truly what he said he is. And on his own part, as some of them said, that the person of Buhari in person is not corrupt. Well, probably that he is surrounded, or some of his appointees must have carried out some of those acts, but in his own person, he is not somebody. But on the area of insurgency also, they believe that, yes, he was able to take over from the former president then, Goodluck Jonathan, at a time when some of the local governments, either in Borno or some part of the northeast, was at the helm or was in the grip of Boko Haram terrorists. And they believe that, yes, his coming in was able to, reclaim some of those territories. And in Katsina also, that he was able to, fight the battle and to some extent won the war for these people here.
Now, I'm sure you've spoken with a lot of elites in Katsina State regarding the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. I'm wondering what lessons you think can be learned, or what lessons do they think can be learned from Buhari's leadership style and approach to governance, particularly in terms of his transition from military rule to democratic rule?
Okay, well, like you pointed out, we spoke with some of the dignitaries. Yesterday, we were privileged to speak with the former Senate president, which is Ahmed Lawan. One of the key things that he said about the former president is a man that is devoid of materialism. And like I pointed out earlier, also he was citing, looking at the house where he lives, that he is not somebody that is, that loves material things, that wants to accrue wealth to himself. That was from Ahmed Lawan. We also spoke with Rotimi Amechi, the former governor of Rivers State, who holds a traditional title in this town, often referred to as Nang Amana. of Daura, meaning a son who is truthful, someone who is truthful of Daura. So he also pointed it out that this man is somebody that lacks, that has the courage to do what is right, that gives people the opportunity to excel, that gives the people the opportunity to carry out what is expected of them without, putting pressure, without, putting an eye in quote on some of the things, that he gave them a free hand, to do their work. And he also pointed out also that Buhari also is not corrupt. We spoke with his spokesperson also, Garba Shehu earlier this morning. Garba Shehu earlier this morning also, who also mentioned a lot of things which he's going to miss, particularly his humility, how humble the late president was, and how he was with him in the hospital, and even assured him that he was going to probably attend his book launch. We also spoke with some of his grandsons, granddaughters also, and they all shared, the impact that their grandfather and their uncle played on their life, how he was able to influence them to do something what is good, while he was able to influence them to do that which is right. So it hosts a lot of people that we have so far interviewed or spoken with here. They've all had a positive response. They've all had positive words to say about the former late president, Muhammadu Buhari.
And Nisi, you've been there, Ayo, you've been on ground for quite a while. What has struck you particularly? What has been one of the more memorable moments that you've encountered so far in your couple hours of coverage?
That the Emir of Daura had made a request that the body stop by his palace. It does appear that perhaps his courtiers are also on standby to receive that body. But, this is unclear. This is unclear as to whether they're the courtiers of the Emir of Daura or the courtiers of other traditional rulers who are in town to receive and attend the funeral of the late president. But yes, these are live pictures, as we have emphasized, from Daura, the hometown of President Muhammadu Buhari, where his body will be laid to rest and the final rites performed as is committed to Mother Earth.
Of course. In this moment, let's get you some of the information and the feelers on the ground, as we have our correspondent, State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, who is covering Daura in this final moment of President Muhammadu Buhari. Larry is live for us. Larry, I guess it's a sunny day right there in Daura, but more beyond that, what more do we know now?
Okay, hi Seun, hi Maokpe. Okay, let me add to that. It's not only a sunny day, it's been a little windy. Very interesting combination of factors here. But be that as it may be, the atmosphere here is changing gradually. And what do I mean by that? Earlier in the day, when we reported in, the place looked calm. There appeared not to be many people, but steadily, just ever so slightly, people have started trooping in and making their way to where the prayers, I'm told, will hold. Gathered there right now are hundreds. I think I can safely say hundreds of people. But what I'm going to show you right now is some of the people that are lining the path of the road the motorcade will pass as it makes its way there to the prayer ground. And you can see these women, children sitting and just waiting by the road, waiting till the motorcade comes. And this is a road that leads, and you can see at the end, you can see there's a large crowd. I tell you for free, there's a larger crowd inside made up of people, made up of dignitaries. We've seen 7 ministers, we've seen former governors, we've seen serving governors. The traditional rulers are there. I know the Emir of Katsina, his motorcade passed by with a full entourage, very colorful with their red and big babariga, of that the traditional attire they wear, very colorful, and they've made their way. The Emir of Daura too made his way in there. I'd also like to show you that we have here youth corps members who have also lined the route that the president will take. All this is in preparation as we await the motorcade as it makes its way from the airport. I can tell you that the security operatives here are having their hands full, trying to ensure that they do not deny people the opportunity to pay their last respects, and at the same time that there's some sort of order. We spoke earlier about how the former president is a very popular figure, and the president's residence. So the motorcade will drive past that, come directly this way, come to this point, which is a T-junction, and go down to where the prayers we hold. From what we understand, it's going to be a very brief ceremony, and as I explained to you, we already have traditional rulers there. We have a lot of dignitaries there. There are no seats there. There are no seats there. So I'm expecting that it's going to be a very brief, no seats, no canopies. So it's going to be a very straightforward, very brief ceremony, and we have a lot of people there already. From that point, my understanding is that they will make their way back. The motorcade bearing the body of the former president will make its way back this way and then move to his residence, where he will be laid to rest. My understanding is that very few people will be out there because the space there is not adequate to take the crowd that is coming. So it's going to be a select crowd that will be let in there, largely family members and a few VIPs. That's my understanding. They will make their way there. And I should tell you that earlier in the day, some dignitaries had already made their way in, but they had started making their way out to go to the prayer ground. So that the residence right now should be pretty much empty because a lot of people have made their way. From that point, after the burial, if I may say, we're going to have a reception. Well, not a reception in the sense that they will be drinking and all that. The president is going to receive people who have come to condole with him, and there's a big tent. Here is what the tent is, that will just be for sitting, offering prayers, saying a few words, basically maybe thanking all those who made the trip to come and pay their last respect to a former president, a soldier who has served this country, a soldier whose history runs like and through the history of this country, a patriot, as the president has called him. He became a president, a statesman, president, former president, late president.
In the next few moments, we don't miss the arrival of the body and the delegation led by the President Bola Tinubu.
Yes.
So we've been trying to paint the picture and give our viewers an understanding of how this will pan out. Although it's going to be in the next few minutes at thereabout.
Yes.
But then we heard that the prayers will be held at the helipad, right? And I imagine that a few minutes away is where the burial ground will be. Is that right, Lanre?
Okay, well, yes, these three places that the activities will take place: the residence, the helipad where the prayers will take place, and another place where the reception or the receiving the guest will take place. They're just a few meters, a couple of 100 meters each way, so it's walkable distance. And I think that's what the security people are trying to do. They've stopped vehicles from coming in. I expect it will only be those of dignitaries. But they want a situation where majority of those are here can walk through. And I need to say that it's not really like the burial ground. He's going to be buried within his residence. They've set out a place, marked out a place where he will be laid to rest. So that's also a few meters here, but like I said earlier, very tight, very few people will be allowed in for what will be, to some extent, a private ceremony laying in state of the former president.
Well, Larry, you did mention the members of the National Youth Service Corps, whom we've seen behind you there, also waiting, for the late president's motorcade to come through. Very significant that they're there. I do know that while he was president, and every time he was in Daura, when they, especially during the Salah holidays, members of the National Youth Service Corps would always go and visit, and most times he would thank them for their service with a cow. Have you been able to speak with any members of the National Youth Service Corps on their feelings on this moment?
Okay, I haven't been able to do that. I just left the arena where the prayers will take place, but I agree with you, Maokwe, that the Youth Corps members, and you said that rightly, they've always played a role, identified with him, and he's always welcomed them with open arms, and like you said, sent them on their way very happy. So I will do that to make sure I get their views on that.
Other updates that you have for us, but we ask you to, of course, stay safe as you do so. We have to thank you. We'll be joining up with you, our correspondent there, Larry Lasisi, on the ground in Daura, bringing us live pictures and updates on the progression of President Muhammadu Buhari's motorcade as it makes its way to the final resting place in his home in Daura. Sheryl, quite a lot to take in at this time, as we continue to see the visuals that are coming in to us. We've seen what has happened at the airport and how, there was a big challenge trying to bring out the president's body in a most dignified manner in the cabin in which it had been kept. Now, it is out of there, military rites have been done, and it is making its way. And we understand that body is making its way through the town of Katsina. I mean, initially when we started this program, we had projections as to will it be flying from the airport, in a helicopter to the helipad, or will it be going by road? Now we know, and we can authoritatively tell you that it will be going through. It's already on its way through the town of Katsina, where we understand people have been paying their respects. We understand that we know that the president had a cult-like following when he was alive. People were very loyal to him, people who loved him genuinely, for nothing, really. They didn't have to love him. They didn't have a reason to love him. They just loved him because they believed he was a man of truth.
Yeah, Megaskia.
Indeed.
Baba. These are things fondly called Buhari. The name gives a meaning, honorable, nobility, integrity. And this also, for someone education, and someone who is also seen as very upright, is believed he has a very strong perception of an upright religious Muslim, and who was also was seeing. Don't forget, some of the impression about him was when he was a military leader, serving together side by side with Tunde Idiagbon, and that era was an era of discipline for Nigeria until the military coup happened. Ousted himself, ousted the Shagari government, which was labeled as a corrupt civilian government. So it gave a lot of popularity to the Buhari personality. He was epitomized as someone who brought integrity, who says that he stood for anti-corruption. There's a lot about that man that gave him that kind of court following and gave his political ambition, his political life a push, and also became the face of the APC. For him, maybe there wouldn't have been a political party that would have defeated an incumbent party. A political party like the PDP that said they were going to rule for 60 years and was truncated after 16 years by the same personality, the figure that we're talking about, a soldier, a symbol, and someone who is seen in different light by many people.
Indeed.
And now he's been given his final burial. Sunset at 82, some people we call it.
Clearly, I mean, he's lived well. 82 is certainly more than what a lot of people get, especially in a country where the life expectancy is not very high. Actually, for men is less than 60. We understand this. Yes, so we do know that the president has been very privileged to have bringing you more pictures of, that you saw earlier, more pictures of the president's body being placed in that ambulance in which his body is now traveling to Daura. But as you did mention, Sheung, quite a remarkable life he's lived. I mean, how many people do get the privilege to serve their country as leaders for 10 years in 2 different rounds? First as military leader.
There are 2 of them that have been that lucky.
Only 2 in Nigeria. Only 2. Out of a country of 230 million people, or 200 million plus people. Only 2. So clearly, very, very privileged man that President Muhammadu Buhari is. And this thing about his being a Megaskia, being a man of integrity and a man of honor, clearly stood out for him, regardless of how people perceive, his stewardship of the 8 to 10 years that he served. You always get mixed reactions. But those who say, oh, we served with him, and there are certain things that stood out for us. Laulu, you talked about his punctuality. It's very interesting that when you mentioned that, one of the things that stood out for me in the tribute paid by Babachende Raji Fashola was his punctuality. He says, what often went unnoticed in public commentary was his unwavering commitment to the core values that binds any serious society. Punctuality, order, and accountability. He did not just talk about these values, he lived them. That's according to the tribute. He says he was perhaps the most punctual public servant I ever encountered. Never late to cabinet meetings, always respecting the time of others. It may seem a small thing, but in governance, it is everything. Actually, it sets a tone.
Let me just give an anecdote of the punctuality thing. So, if President Buhari doesn't arrive at the council chamber Wednesday 10 a.m., then something is wrong. And that was how, when he had the sickness, if you remember very well, it started with him not showing up at cabinet, and you could tell that if he's not there at 10 a.m., seated
it's a signal.
It's a signal, and that was exactly what happened when he started having the challenges, with his health. And a lot of the times, everybody will be seated, and 10:01, when it's about 10:05, then, Malam Gaba and Femi Adesina and Alhaji Lai Mohammed will be running all over the place because there has to be an explanation of what it is. And in many cases, it was Malam Gaba that we have to go to the residents to come and tell us that, hey, I don't think the man is up to it to come out today. So that's the nature of how punctual he was. You could tell that if he's not there,
And it's important because this is a country that was notorious, it would seem, for African time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether it was African time or was Nigerian time, but, Nigerians
popularly called African time.
Yeah. So for that, for him to set that, it would seem that somehow subsequent leaders have now taken the cue from the expectancy that, we used to keep to time, and we expect whoever is coming to continue to do so. Would you say that, people are beginning to generally get that and are trying to, keep to that, especially in government circles?
Well, I think we have to do a lot more of that. I think in this town of Abuja, my experience, is that people don't really pay a lot of attention they don't respect people's time. You see people in the waiting rooms of the ministers, of top government agencies, sitting there for hours, and you'll be surprised, the caliber of people that you see sitting down, for hours trying to see people, so something is wrong with that kind of setting where we expect people who have things to do to sit down and wait for hours on end. There's something wrong there. So I wish this is something that we can really pay more attention to, and then people are arriving on time for meetings also. Unlike President Buhari, most people don't arrive, they give you 10, they saunter in at 11 with little or no apologies, so I think it's an area that's...
I think it counts also for discipline, because there are a few professions that I know that timing is not... is part of your skills. The media, for one, I know. I mean, you've got even if you're operating in the newspaper and the print media, you know that if you miss your timing, there's a deadline to print. For television, for example, call time is call time. Another profession I know is theater arts. Timing is of the essence. You have a show for 9 p.m. Your call time, even for rehearsals. You have to be on time for rehearsals and for the show. But if you show discipline as a military man, who that training is also the fact that you're not only respecting yourself, you're respecting others.
True.
Being punctuality.
Oh, yes.
People don't know that is respect for others. But beyond that, what kind of thing goes on at FEC, meeting which you are always privy to, beyond punctuality?
Oh, well, so the length of hours of the meetings that you will sit down and, talking about President Buhari, and I've never seen him actually take a break to go and, he sits down there from like 10 o'clock, the thing goes to like 1, at times 2.
Prayers will be performed because the Islamic funeral does not take much, the Islamic funeral does not waste much time. Maximum, we expect that funeral rite to last for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. People will offer their prayers, mourners will come, offer their prayers, there will be recitations, and we also expect, we don't expect it to take much, not more than 25 minutes, maximum 30 minutes, according to the Islamic rites.
Well, Nisi, it seems there's a lot going on behind you as well. It's supposed to be a public holiday, but it seems that individuals are going by doing their daily activities, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, you agree with me that the public holiday will only be taken serious by civil servants, government officials. I'm aware that most government offices are not functioning because of the public holiday, but due to the hardship in the country, you agree with me that petty businesses will open, definitely. People will be on the street to sell their pepper, their tomato, their charcoal. We are here in northern Nigeria. Charcoal is a common trade here. People will be selling charger padlocks, just roadside sellers. But when you go to government agencies and parastatals, the public holiday is observed across board. And also to add to that, when you go to some government institutions here in Katsina, the national flag is flying half-mast in honor of
late President Muhammadu Buhari.
So, Nisi, what initiatives have been taken or do you expect will be taken to preserve Buhari's legacy and, of course, promote his contributions to Nigeria's development?
Sorry, I didn't get that question. Can you come again,
I said,
please?
what initiatives are being taken at the moment or do you expect will be taken later to preserve Buhari's legacy and promote his contributions to Nigeria's development?
That's a good question too. Well, we expect the federal government, after the 3-day mourning period, to sit down with its Federal Executive Council and they will deliberate further. And we expect some monuments or some government buildings to be named after him, in honor of him. Also in Katsina, we expect the same thing. Also, we expect the Nigerian Parliament to come